Hello traders at CMC Markets. Welcome to another update from RRG Research for Monday the 13th of March. I'm recording this on Friday the 10th of March. My name is Trevor and I'm presenting to you from London. This week I'm going to start by looking at the global indices as we always do, study a little bit of a couple of notable things in that, including looking at the European, the DAX and the stocks, and the Nasdaq. We'll look at growth versus value, and then we'll look at what used to be called the FANG sector, and pick a security that we like the chart of in that sector. Now we start by looking at the relative rotation graph with weekly sampling of major stock markets in the world versus the MSCI world. So this is not an absolute relationship, this is a relationship to all the stock markets in the world. And we see a pattern here. We see in the leading quadrant, we have the European indices, just about including the FTSE, but we've got the stocks heading northeasterly, that is improving in relative strength compared to the benchmark, and also the CAC as well, northerly with positive momentum, DAX in there too. We've got the Hang Seng continuing its sort of fast move around, but still in the leading quadrant, so something that we picked up around here many months ago, and it's still dominating, but it's coming round now, maturing, but it doesn't indicate that it's over yet. The Australian index has moved into the lagging quadrant. We haven't favoured that for a long time, but look at the other constituents of the lagging quadrant. We've got the S&P, we've got the Dow, we've got the Nikkei coming up here, we've got the Russell moving closely with the MSCI world, so not with a high degree of correlation with the MSCI world, and we have got the Nasdaq showing promise up here with quite a long tail in there. Now, something that we always monitor is in the US, the relationship between growth and value. And this has switched again, and we've been following it. We saw a big double top on that. I'll show you in a moment. It's now completed the counter double top, and it's resuming its uptrend. So here it is. Here now we've got the growth coming up strongly. I've left a long tail on here to see so I can show you where it's come from. But it was down here in the lagging quadrant, now coming through and looking like it's going to dominate here. And at the same time, the value has fallen away very, very sharply, but it was in the leading quadrant. So there's been a switch around in here. Now we see this very clearly in a graph. So we talked about this double top here. We broke down from the double top. We broke down, then retested it. Now, interestingly, the count from the double top was exactly where we got to when we got down to as a ratio of 1.13 here, and there's where it picked up support, and it is in a longer term uptrend, and we have bounced strongly. So the RRG has tracked this very, very well indeed, and this is another way of seeing this relationship. But currently we've got the bounce in growth and value is under pressure again, so a resumption of what has been dominating for quite a few decades now has had a severe interruption, but now looking like it's returning in the direction of its long-term trend with growth outperforming value. And next I'd like to look at the DAX and the Euro Stoxx 50, those two that were looking very good on our initial RRG graph. And in the case of the stocks, we're flirting with the highs here now from 2021, from November 2021. It's got a good base here at 4,000, but 4,400 is the resistance point. It's moving up pretty strongly. This is the MACD here, and you can see that the MACD line is above its signal line. The gap is not widening, so it's losing a little bit momentum as we reach the resistance of the high here. The RSI 2 is showing a little bit of easing back as we reach the high here. So the test of resistance is expressing itself, and we see these in the slight weakening of the indicators. So it's having a struggle, as you would expect, to break its high. However, the trend is still strongly up for it, and it is likely to do it later rather than sooner. And looking at the DAX itself, in comparison to the Euro stocks, it's got a similar message in that it is going up. It's above significant support at 15,000. It's got significant resistance at 16,200 or 16,300. Two tops in there, up there. Higher lows pattern intact here. This is a weekly chart. Below us we have the MACD here going up strongly, but again the MACD closing in on the signal line. So a bit of loss of momentum. We also see that in the RSI chart with on the rising prices here, declining RSI, so a divergence in the RSI with the rising price. And also we see that in the RRG the momentum is declining, which is a leading indicator of the ratio itself. You see here, for example, the momentum turned up, then the ratio turned up. Here the momentum turned down, and then the ratio turned down. It's a leading moment, and that is what we use in the RRG quadrants graphs, and here it is in a picture. So the forecast is here that this will struggle to break up through this high here. So the purpose of this section about the German stocks is, although they're coming up nicely in the relative rotation graphs in that global picture that we were looking at there, it is coming into resistance at the high and showing loss of momentum at the high in both the Euro stocks and the DAX, and both of them look like they will struggle to continue to the upside. Now here's a relative rotation graph of what people used to refer to as the FANG stocks, but I think it's FANG-TB stocks now, but basically the very active essentially tech stocks. And what we're looking for is ones which are heading northeasterly. Nvidia here furthest to the right and also rising. So this is compared to the S&P, and the sampling is weekly. So this one has got the best relative momentum and the best relative performance versus the S&P itself. Tesla is over here in the improving quadrant, but somewhat hesitant and doesn't look that certain that it wants to get into the leading quadrant yet. Netflix falling down here. We've got Twitter heading northeasterly as well, but this is further over to the right. Following through on the nice positioning of the Nasdaq in the global equities RRG, and then looking at the what used to be called the FANG group, and we saw Nvidia. And let's have a look at the absolute chart of Nvidia now, and we can see that the last year it was the whole of 22 it was in a downtrend, but it broke through basically in January, broke the downtrend there, started a new uptrend. This has only got 2 points on it, but it is we are going up, and most recently it's just broken through resistance at 235, the high low 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 breakdown point here, 235 just being cleared. So of course, if you've had a long downtrend, the journey up is going to meet resistance. But how is it looking? Though it's come up from 120 to 240, it's doubled. How is it looking? The MACD, you can see here, the MACD line is separate, is above the signal line, and it is the gap is widening, so it's gaining upside momentum, having just broken through a resistance level. The RSI, are we losing momentum? We're a tiny bit on this week's candle, but it is moving up. It's very strong indeed, generally. Very happy to see that. It should be well supported. If it does come back to around 230, it should find support around the 230 point there if it needs it. But the momentum is good, is looking like it wants to go up and test the resistance. The next resistance, which is at 290, if it were to break that, then we'd be looking at the 350 high up there.